Hello, welcome to Sophie & Co. Me, Sophie Shevardnadze. Tech companies are growing more defiant in the debate over user privacy, refusing to provide governments access to customers' devices and online communications. But by denying the government surveillance powers, are we becoming vulnerable? Are we allowing terrorism to spread uncontrolled? To discuss this and more, we're joined by cybersecurity legend John McAfee.
As we become more dependent on computers in every aspect of life, from personal entertainment to global systems everyone relies on, society becomes exposed to digital dangers, vulnerable to malicious hacking attacks, unprotected against a potential cyber war. Is computer warfare the future of conflict? Is law enforcement ready to adapt to the new digital threat? And how much real-life damage can a cyber attack inflict?
John McAfee, cybersecurity expert extraordinaire, inventor, entrepreneur, creator of McAfee Antivirus. Welcome to the show once again. It's really great to have you with us. So, John, the recent Apple FBI battle over unlocking the encrypted iPhone of the San Bernardino shooter has ended when the FBI said it was able to access the phone's data with the help from a third party. Should the FBI have access to the information stored on that phone, the phone of a terrorist?
Well, it's not a matter of should they have it. I mean, I guess if it's suspected in a crime, the question is not should they have access to it, is should they require Apple to give them access in a manner that gives them access to all other telephones. And that's basically what the FBI was asking.
But that's all interrelated. Do you believe the FBI did in fact get access to the phone, or did it just say it did to save face?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. They did. They did get access. There's no question. And they had the ability to get access all along. The way they got access was through a device built by an Israeli company called Celebrite. They had a contract with that company dating back to 2013 and had purchased thousands of these devices. So they had the capacity all along. They just wanted to use this phone, since it was used in a terrorist act, to be a test case to try to get the courts to force Apple to give them a backdoor.
So they had to involve a third party to actually hack into that iPhone, because you've said the FBI doesn't have the capacity to carry out an iPhone hack, for instance, on its own. Why not? Why doesn't a powerful agency like that have the resources to get things done?
Well, I mean, they have the resources since they purchased these devices. I mean, that's one way of saying they have it. I think the FBI is behind the eight ball. They don't have the capacity anymore to keep up with the changing technology. It's a very tired organization that does not inspire creativity and innovation, and they need to follow other countries in expanding their hiring and structuring their security programs and their cybersecurity. They just have not kept up.
So Apple has been refusing to help the FBI to get inside a phone, and they were saying it would actually compromise the security of all other devices. But after cracking the phone, however, the FBI was quick to say the method they used won't work on more advanced iPhone models. So one of the sides is definitely bluffing. Which one?
Well, the FBI is bluffing. I mean, the device that they have will actually break into any iPhone. It's a hardware device. It's not a software key that you can just transmit over the internet and let everybody have. No, it's a hardware device. They have to buy the device, they have to have the device present, and they have to put the phone into that device. So no, the FBI is bluffing. They have the capacity, using that same company, Celebrite, to get access to an iOS 7.
But John, how can Apple actually counter all of that? Can it counter all of that, all this new hacking?
Here's the truth of hacking and security. No matter how secure you want to make a system, someone will always find a way to break in. It's been that way with safes, it's been that way with door locks, it's been that way with bank vaults. There will always be a way. Nothing can be perfectly secure in life. This is just the way the world works. Least of all software. It has to be a continual affair. You make something, you think it's perfect, someone finds a way to break in, you see how they break in, you fix that and make it stronger. And in the end, we end up with stronger products and more perfect security.
Wall Street Journal says Apple has been helping the FBI break into iPhones of criminals since 2008. but changed its policies after Snowden's revelation. So Apple didn't really care much about user privacy before that, right?
Well, no, I disagree with that. You know, I'm going to take Tim Cook's and Apple's side in this. Apple has been helping, and I have no problem with that. Helping, you want to get access to an individual phone, you get a court order, Apple should help. But the FBI didn't ask for that. It asked for a universal key that would allow it to get into any iPhone. It's a different thing, and it's the first time the FBI had asked that. I'd be very surprised if Apple had not cooperated with the FBI even after the Snowden revelations. That's one thing. Sure, you have a court order, you have a phone you want to break into, we'll help you break into this phone. But the FBI specifically said, we want a master key. So that's what they asked for.
I mean, would you say
version of Apple software?
Would you say FBI lost eventually because Apple didn't hand over the universal key to FBI?
Well, no. Actually, the FBI has not lost because they now have a new court challenge from the state of New York over an iPhone that belonged to a drug dealer. So they're now trying a new challenge using the same exact arguments. So no, this may go on for quite a while. The FBI continuing to push and then backing off and continuing to push and then backing off.
And then eventually using
like
third parties to hack into those devices.
Yes. So this is going to be a constant. But Apple can never give in. It simply can't. We all lose if the people who build the privacy systems give up. Give up on privacy, give up on their product, and give up on us. So it can't happen. Not in my world.
Here's a funny detail. A director of the FBI has admitted to be covering his laptop camera with a tape to guard his privacy. So the same person who wants a backdoor into private cameras is worried about
wants his own privacy.
Yeah, he's worried about, being spied on someone. How does that even work? And, if he does it, should we all be doing that? Should we all be covering our laptop cameras with a tape?
No. All it shows is the lack of sophistication within the FBI, because there are a lot of products available. I make a product through my company, Future Tense Central, called Devasive, that you can download and just lock it by clicking a button. If you want to lock the camera, lock the microphone, lock the Wi-Fi, or lock whatever you want. That's available. The fact that the director of the FBI uses tape, instead of using the more sophisticated software that the rest of us use, doesn't that scare you? It scares me.
Well, some would argue. Yeah, but some would argue that this really conventional techniques like using tape or, typewriters is the only sure way not to be hacked in, because once you have a program protecting, there's an anti-program that can be hacked into that program that protects you.
Yeah, but what does tape do? It doesn't prevent software from getting into your system.
You can't hack into a tape. You can't hack into a tape.
No. The tape only covers the camera. Meaning that the camera cannot take a picture of you. It doesn't cover the microphone. It doesn't cover you're still on the internet. So no, the tape does nothing other than block the camera from taking a picture. That's all I'm saying. You can still get software in. It's a piece of tape. You have like on the laptop and on your phones, you have a tiny little circle, which is the camera lens. People put tape over that so the camera cannot see them. Okay, so you're being protected from being watched, but you're not being protected from being listened to, and you're not being protected from software getting into your system and stealing your data. That's all that does.
So
That's
you're
what I'm
thinking
saying. It's a very unsophisticated approach.
So why are they so unsophisticated? Because there's no other reason behind using things like tape other than being unsophisticated. There is no other thoughts behind that, right?
No, there's no other reason at all. It's simply that's what we used to do before we got software to do it for us. No, they're unsophisticated because they have not kept up with changing technology. Obviously. I mean, the only people I see using tape anymore are the... Yes, to that point. Obviously, he admitted to doing it. So tape does not prevent you from getting hacked. It does not prevent you from getting your data taken. It does not prevent you from being listened to. All it does is it prevents the camera from seeing you. So no, if he believes that it actually prevents hacking, then we all need to just go home because we're lost.
But
If that's
how can the FBI not be
unsophistication.
on top of all of these things? Like, seriously, I find it hard to believe.
Well, isn't that the question? I mean, seriously, is that not the question? I mean, when maybe they are, and they're trying to delude us for some bizarre reason, because when they came to Apple and said, we can't get into this phone, they could. They had the device from Celebrite to do it. So no, that's utter complete nonsense. It's nonsense. But I actually believe that the director's using tape. I mean, because it sounded legitimate. It sounded like he was being sincere. What it shows is he does not understand cyber science at all, which means that maybe the whole FBI does not understand it. Because really, if you're at the head of the FBI and cyber science is 90% of your work and you don't understand it, we have a problem either way you look at it. No matter how you approach this situation, it's tragic, and it bodes ill for me and you and all Americans. Please. I mean, it's so obvious.
All right, John, we're going to take a short break right now. When we're back, we'll continue speaking to John McAfee, cybersecurity pioneer, discussing issues of personal privacy and digital safety in today's technology-centered world. Stay tuned. And we're back with John McAfee, cybersecurity legend, talking about the new digital technology dangers we're beginning to face in the modern world. So, John, we've established that everything can be hacked. Is there now a phone that's truly safe and spy-proof for users? There is no way to avoid spyware?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a phone that does not have a computer in it. They're called dumb phones. And you can call anybody you want and even send text messages, and they cannot be hacked because there's nothing in them to hack. But beyond that, if you have a smartphone, meaning you have a computer and you have software, someone will always figure out a way.
Encrypted Telegram Messenger faced criticism for being used by terrorists. You know, we have a moral dilemma there. Now, WhatsApp has joined the encryption club. Do you expect a law enforcement crackdown on all these encrypted messengers, privacy-guarding business?
Yes, of course. Why should law enforcement have the right to listen into my private conversations? I mean, if I want to go out into the woods and whisper something to my wife, I should have the right to do that. I have the right to privacy. And so, if my wife happens to be across town, why can't I? Well, how do you know they're a terrorist yet? I mean, a suspected person is not a guilty person. Until you are proven guilty, you have all the rights that everybody else has. This is America. We have a constitution. I am sorry. And I am not a terrorist, and neither are you, to my knowledge. And just because there are terrorists, should you give up your right to privacy? Absolutely not. Do you realize what madness that would bring, what chaos? Our society would come unglued. We can't do that.
You know, the most damaging cyber attack on record, the Panama paper leak. They affected major law firm that's working with heads of states, politicians, celebrities. Now, you call the Panama Papers a smear campaign orchestrated by the U.S. government. Do you mean to say the government's hackers are behind this? I mean, what evidence is there that U.S. government has orchestrated all of this?
I'll give you the evidence. There were 14,000 companies in there. 14,000. Not one American?
Well, you know, Americans tend to have their offshores in Bahamas rather than Panama. That's not a proof.
Oh, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. I mean, I know lots of Americans who have Panamanian offshore accounts. Many of them. They do it because they want their money protected. They don't trust the American banking systems, and they don't trust American privacy laws. So they do that. No, that's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. I mean, the Icelandic people were using it.
So wait,
one of the fallouts was the. Go ahead.
So you're really saying that the American government orchestrated this whole Panama paper leak?
Well, I'm saying that they certainly had a hand in it, yes.
But what would be the reason? Why would they want to do that?
But let's oh, good. Well, half of it has already been expressed. Using these papers, America got to smear the government's enemies. Now who was released? Iran, Pakistan. I don't know why. Oh, I know why Iceland was in there, because of they had.
No. They had Cameron's family
some
involved.
Very powerful banks.
They had Cameron's family involved.
Yes.
They had Azerbaijani family involved. They're all American allies.
That was. But no. That was by a very, very slight implication. Very slight implication. Directly the Prime Minister of Iceland. And look at all of the links that they tried to make to Syrian leaders and Palestinian leaders about drug money and weapons and all of these other things and terrorism. But not one word about America. So why would they do that? Number one, it lets us smear our enemies. And then you have to put a smattering of a few others to make it look legitimate. And then it gets to tell the American people who do have accounts with Mossack Fonseca that we know that you're in there. And suddenly, powerful American people have the government holding something over their head. You know how this works. You know how this works. This is politics in the world at large, not just in America. It's sad, it's tragic, it's heinous, but it's real. It is what happens. Please, governments become corrupt, always. Power inevitably corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Please, this is the truth of life since the beginning of the human race. And so our government, can you say our government is not powerful? If it is powerful, there is corruption somewhere in it to a very high degree. And so to imagine that the U.S. government would never do something like that, look at what our government has done. It has been spying on us, among other things, by an agency whose charter is to spy on foreign nations. I'm sorry.
But on the other hand, Chinese hackers have allegedly breached U.S. government personal records. That was last year sometime. Why can't even the U.S. government protect its own data?
Isn't that the question? Let's get back to why does the head of the FBI put a piece of tape over his camera lens thinking that is going to protect him? It is because we are very far behind. Obviously, the government says, no, we are very advanced in cyber warfare and cyber technology. If that's the case, why did you allow the Chinese to walk off with 21 million records from the Office of Personnel Management? Why did you let the Iranian government almost open the sluice gates on a power dam in New York? Why did you let Homeland Security get hacked? The Pentagon, the FBI, two 15-year-old boys hacked into the FBI's database and walked off with all the personal information of their undercover agents. Good gosh, if we know what we're doing, why is this happening to us? The only answer is we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. It is obvious to anybody who wants to take a look.
All right, John, I want to talk a bit about cyber war against terrorism. I mean, you've said that America is stuck in thinking that eavesdropping will be effective against terrorism. If that's the case, then why is there this monster of a surveillance system in place?
But eavesdropping doesn't work, obviously. I mean, we've got one of the greatest eavesdropping organizations in the world. We're using all kinds of devices to listen in on people's conversations. Have we stopped a single terrorist attack? Not that I'm aware of. And why, if we could stop one, why can't we stop others? I mean, it takes us by surprise every time. So obviously, the eavesdropping technique is not working. They need another paradigm. They need to use a completely different technique. We are stuck in the 1930s when we used to fight organized crime that rose out of our prohibition against drinking alcohol. We used to fight them by eavesdropping, and it worked so well. Well, that was 70 years ago. Please, the world has changed. Cyber technology has changed the need and the methodology for cyber science and cyber security systems and cyber surveillance.
So I read you said that there is another way to use raw data and pattern analysis to identify terrorist cells and predict their actions. But if the nation's security services aren't using it, maybe it's not that effective after all.
Well, I mean, logic would say that it's extremely effective. Extremely. We don't understand this yet in America. We still think that if we listen to the words that you say, that will tell us something. That is nonsense. With terrorist groups, the words that you say are always coded. That's another form of encryption, verbal encryption. They may be talking about basketball, and at the end of the game, when the score is done, they have already planned their next attack, and you have no clue. But by watching the pattern of their calls, that this one phone only does outgoing calls and never gets incoming calls, that prior to an attack, there's one call made to 10 people, and then from those 10 people, 10 more, and from those 10 people, 10 more. Well, that tells me something. That's a real-life event that cannot be veiled by verbal encryption or by any kind of coding.
That's just good old-fashioned spying, John. Tell me something. You predicted a cyber war more devastating than a nuclear war. What kind of a big attack on the internet is really possible? And honestly, I mean, blacking out websites doesn't sound that dangerous to me compared with losing real lives. Why should we be afraid of cyber terrorism? Is it capable of more than internet disruptions?
Well, yes. Let's look at what's possible of being hacked. Any computer can be hacked. The older the computer, the easier it is to hack that computer. And what do computers do? They don't just access the internet and do our taxes. They control steel mills and food processing plants and virtually everything in life, including our cars now. Last year, a car was hacked into by two hackers hundreds of miles away, and control was taken away from the driver. It was written up in Wired magazine. So, but let's assume there's something far more important than automobiles or even airplanes that can be hacked. What about power plants? In America, our power grid is approaching 50 years old. 50. And our computers are 20 to 25 years old, way before cybersecurity was even considered as an issue. So what if someone said, oh, instead of hacking your cell phone and stealing your credit card, I'm going to hack the power company and move all the power around until it blows out all the power stations. And they think, oh, that's a serious problem. What if it blew out every one? We'd have no power. Without power, we can't repair them. We don't have power tools. Without power, we cannot process food because all of food processing is automated and controlled by computers. Without food, we die. I mean, this is, okay, Mr. Fry, who was the, what is it, the head of the Congressional Committee on EMP, which is electromagnetic pulse, and James Woolsey, the ex-head of the CIA, gave a talk to Congress, or presented a paper to Congress last year, insisting that if we lost our power grid, 90% of all Americans would perish within 24 months. I think that's optimistic. How can 10% of us live in a situation with no food and no fresh water? We're not used to going out and hunting and fishing for our food. Now, sure, those that can, have a better chance of survival. But they're going to have to compete with a lot of hungry people, many of them armed. So, seriously, what could be worse? A nuclear war can't possibly approach that level of devastation. I don't care how bad that war might be.
All right, John, you sound pretty convincing. Well, anyways, thank you so much for this interview. We've been talking to John McAfee, legendary cybersecurity expert, inventor of McAfee security software, weighing in on questions of privacy and security in the digital age. That's it for this edition of Sophie & Co. I'll see you next time.